So the first feature we've recently added, and a lot of people ask for, is ordering a part from an invoice or a work order, and it actually ties the part from the purchase order back to the work order. So you do have to actually turn this on, and to turn it on, go to Setup, General, and Service. All right, that's another option we'll get to in a minute. It's actually under Users and Modify, User Privileges, and Order Parts from Work Orders. So this is to order parts from a work order or an invoice, and it is held under the user privilege. So if that user has the box turned on, they'll see the option to order a part from an invoice or a work order. So once you create a work order and you have a part on it, you can right-click on the part and go to Order Item. It'll open up to the amount that it's on the invoice and the supplier. Click OK. It then gets added to an open purchase order. If there was a purchase order, or there wasn't a purchase order already open for that supplier, it would ask you, do you want to create a new purchase order? And if you click yes, it opens a new one and adds that one part to the purchase order. So again, that's right-click and Order Item. Once it's ordered, again, I had a purchase order that was already open. You'll see an invoice or a work order number to let you know what invoice or work order it's actually ordered for. For a work order, there's two spots you can order the part. Once you've added it to a work order, you can right-click in the information and go to Order Part, and you'll see the same screen. Or you can order it from the job screen here and order part. So you've got to be in the job screen or the edit job screen. Same thing, you order part and as the existing purchase order or create a new one. There is a link back to the original invoice or work order. Right now it is broke, so that's on our list of things to fix, but if you go to Part and View Work Order, it is supposed to and will eventually take you back to the work order. For now, you just have to search for it, though. Okay, so that's ordering a part from an invoice or work order. You do have to turn it on under the users. We also added the option to create a new work order from a work order with open jobs, but some are closed. We'll create another work order. So if you have two jobs on a work order or more than two jobs, and one of them is marked as complete from the tech copy, you can create new work order with open jobs. So you could do this for a number of reasons. If the customer wants to go ahead and pay for the first job and the second job will be done at a later date, but you want to keep it, you can do that. But if you just right-click and create new order with open jobs,
Well, it's something to do with funding and checks between water.
What do you think? Randy's going to bring it over? You want me to do it? What's the deal?
New work order with the jobs that were not completed yet, and the old work order.
What?
On the old one. The old one keeps the original jobs on it, but it has a transfer tag to let you know that that job has been transferred to a new work order. And so here's the original one. It says that it's transferred, and you can actually link back to the new work order if you right-click, go to Edit, and it has a status of transferred, but if you right-click, you can go to View Transferred Work Order. It opens up the new work order that that job has been transferred to. Okay. So that's how you can create a new work order with jobs that are still open on a existing work order. We changed up the parts import a little bit to hopefully make it easier for you. When you import or update parts, that's done under Service, Parts, and Import. I don't know who's all done this before, but you just select the supplier and then select your file. I have a PCM file ready to go. Browse for it.
Yes, I am.
And then when you're ready to import, select OK. Now this updates any PCM parts. It'll update their pricing and any information about the PCM part. PCM gives us MSRP only, so you have to put in your discount. But the new feature is this screen here. It shows you what the first part's going to look like. So if you can usually tell pretty quickly if it's messed up. You'll have numbers in the description, or the cost and MSRP won't be numbers. But if everything looks does here, you can click Continue. If it doesn't, you can click Abort. If you click Continue, it's going to run through every part. And like I said, it's going to update all the PCM parts. A feature we added a while back is the ability to create a rigging work order that actually affects the cost basis of a boat. You do have to turn this one on, and it is under the Setup. Go to Setup and General, Service tab. Under the work orders, you have Add Rigging Jobs to the Vehicle's Cost Basis. If you don't do this, you can still create rigging tickets, but it's not going to show under the cost view of a boat or any unit in stock. So to create a price level that allows you to create a rigging work order that affects the cost of a boat, service, view, and price levels. And while we're in here for price levels, I actually just cover what they do. The price level is going to set your pricing, whether it's taxed, and who pays for the job. So you're going to have a bunch of price levels like I do here. And you can create more, just right-click and create. We'll jump into this rigging one here. Again, the first screen sets the labor, what's the cost, the retail, what's displayed on the work order, your parts pricing. It's going to use an override, shop supplies, sublet, if it's taxed, and account overrides is for QuickBooks, and then you have your accounts receivable, who's going to pay. If you're having any trouble for pricing on a work order, the first place to look is your price level. That's all your pricing for the work orders or invoices, the entire service side of the software. If you're still having trouble after checking your price level, check your parts overrides, because those can override the price level and mess up your pricing as well. Will charge to the unit's cost basis. create one real quick to show you what that'll do. So it just gives you the in-stock units. I'm going to set the price level to internal rigging. Okay, that created the work order there. And if you go to boats, new, and I look at my Yamaha here, you'll have the work order number, the job, and the cost of that job there. You can have multiple work orders, multiple jobs, and as long as you have that checkbox under setup checked, that will show on the cost basis of the boat. And that affects new, used, doesn't matter, any in-stock unit.
So, Stephen, that's just with you have to set that up through the price level?
Yeah, correct. You do have to turn it on under setup in general, and Andrew, for you have to do this for each location. So make sure you check it there, and then if you're using for the accounts receivable, the accounts or charge to accounts receivable, just set it to internal rigging, and then it will show up on.
And then in general setup, go to service and.
Yeah, correct. Service, and then under work orders, you'll see add rigging jobs to vehicles cost basis.
Oh, that's great.
Okay. Yeah, we added that a few months ago, but it's something didn't. If you don't read the emails, know about. So, but if you got any trouble setting up, just let me know.
Okay.
All right. Also, the price levels, you have a dealership default, which is done under setup. I believe it's under general main dealership. So you have a dealership price level default for invoices and for work orders. You can also have a customer default. Customer default is going to override the dealership default, and this can be used for custom tax exempt. You don't have to remember every time to switch it. But if you go to the customer information, the preferences, and the default customer price level, if you change it, that's going to be their default. Now you can always edit and change it, but it's their default on a work order or an invoice.
I'm not fully sure. I've got the operator for you.
Thing we changed recently that is throwing a few people off, a multiple part entry dialog box, and we've had this for a while, but we moved how to on. It's now under users, modify, and user privileges. It's all the way at the bottom, and it's the use multiple part entry dialog box. The regular dialog box always looks like this, where you just type in the part number, and you would, if you're adding it to a work order or anything, you would have a quantity here. The multiple part entry dialog box can be a little confusing if you don't know how to use it. But when you add stuff to a work order and invoice, you have two dialog boxes, the top and a bottom. And to actually do a work order, you have to search, tab, and enter a quantity. When you're the quantity box, press enter, and it adds it to the bottom. Only parts at the bottom will get added to the work order. Select the part, enter, and press file.
Are you guys sitting on mute?
Do you have the menu copies? You have it.
Okay. Okay. So that's the multiple dialog box. And again, if you just put in a quantity, press OK, it's not going to add it. You have to actually press enter, and it has to be added to the bottom. Done by user, so if one user likes it, they can use it. And the idea was you can just tab and keep adding parts. So it's done under the purchase orders. You use the same entry, the invoices, work orders. It's used everywhere, just done by user now. A few reports, we've added a report and we've changed a few reports. I'd like to go over those. We've added a discount report. It can pull discounts for just part sales, which is the whole service side, or for vehicle sales. So if you just select a date range and OK, it pulls up a report saying what the invoice was or work order, who cashiered it, date, payment method, type, and you have a discount column, which is the discount that was given, and the amount column is the amount of the work order or invoice after the discount was applied. You can right-click and just view them if you want.
Okay, yeah.
What happened. So that's under reports and discounts, just done by date, and can be done by the service side, the sales side, or both combined. He updated the parts for the the tax liability report. Gives you a little more information. That report is what we updated. We added a column for the taxable amount, the tax that was actually charged, and the total amount I believe was there before. But we did. Hopefully, it'll give you more information when you're trying to figure out taxes there. We also modified the parts consumption report to include any miscellaneous parts. So if you pull one, you'll have a new MISC column, and that just tells you if it was a miscellaneous part. If it was, it's going to say yes, and it just lets you keep track of those. For the most part, you don't want to be using miscellaneous parts all the time, so you might want to add them into inventory if you start using them a lot. A few hotkeys I wanted to cover just so everybody knows they're there. For the service invoices and work orders, you have Control-I to start an invoice and Control-W to start a work order. So you can just use those at the home screen, Control-I, and if you just press Enter twice, you can get right to an invoice to start it. That's Control-I, and Control-W just starts a work order. Those two are always shown under Service Invoices and Create to the right, so you don't forget those. We also have F3 on the keyboard. Does a parts price search where you can just search for a price, select the price level, and it'll just tell your price before tax, obviously. F3 on the keyboard gets the parts price search. You can also just scan a barcode of a part, and that one matched multiple, but gives you this parts price check. So similar to the last screen, but it searches for you, and you can the price level affects the part. And again, that's before tax there. So the last thing I'd like to cover is just how to print part barcode labels. It's not a new feature, but it's something we get a lot of questions about. You can do this from a purchase order. When you complete a purchase order, if you just right-click and say print barcode labels, it's going to print all the barcode labels for that purchase order. Okay, so you can print part labels. Opens you up, asks you what type of sheet you have to print them on, what pricing you want to show, and if you want to show a little more information on there. And then next tells you what it's going to print, and then if you finish, it'll ask you where you want to print them. So it's that easy from a purchase order. You can also do barcode labels from the service tools and print part labels. You can do it by account, which is going to print a lot. It's going to print the entire count of parts, or you can do individual. Do individual, similar to from the purchase order. You can see the same screens, but you're going to see a select part. So you just right-click and add, and select the parts you want to print barcode labels for. If you've imported a list from your supplier that has part labels, the part labels they have on their parts usually work. That's not always the case, but if you do import a file, they should work. Like this one here does not have a barcode, which is okay. We'll just print the part number as the barcode, and that'll work for you. That's all I had to cover for new features. Is there anything anybody like me to cover again, or anything else on the service side you'd like me to go over? Okay, everybody good? This was our last training session for the first schedule I made. I'm going to be making another schedule, hopefully pretty soon, within the next week. If you have any recommendations for us or any topics you'd like to see covered, feel free to send me an email, and we'll see if we can get it on there for another training session. Any ideas you have, if you think they're too short, if you think they're too long, let me know. We want to make it work for you. We've had a pretty good turnout so far, so we'd like to keep it up. All right, and I'll send out an email with the video posted if anybody wants to look back. All right, well, thanks for everybody that got on. And
I am sorry, that's not a valid